you have to do it that way. You try to introduce.
All right, PCC family, those in person and online, I just want to welcome you to our second forum today related to the facility strategic planning process. This one is specifically related to campus safety, so a lot of the conversation that we'll have today will be focused on that. You all probably came in and had some cards that were offered to you, so if you have them, feel free to fill them out for questions for TJ and I as we get through the presentation. I have a colleague there, David, who's nicely getting up the ramp and has offered to collect those cards and bring those up to us so we can respond to all of your questions that you may have today. All right, so here's a quick content overview. We're going to talk a little bit, so always when I try to ground our sessions is first sort of in a learning moment, like what do we have today, what's happening, a data moment, sort of like what does the data tell us around campus safety, and then a transition into some discussion opportunity for the community. So we're going to go over our campus operations, just generic information that you all should be aware of. We're going to talk a little bit about our incident management team, which the college has worked diligently on over the last year and a half. We're going to look at some campus climate data. So the college did a campus climate survey in 2022, and there were actually some specific questions related to campus safety that I kind of want to pull out some pieces to kind of ground us and have the conversation. I have asked my colleague here, Tim Daji Jamal, we call him TJ, who is our Chief Technology Officer. He's going to walk through some technology opportunities related to campus safety and facilities that we're considering and really thinking about in the future. We want to end and make sure that everyone understands how to report issues on campus related to facilities related activities. And then we're going to open up for some questions and just comment period for you all to be able to share some information with us. So if that all sounds fair to you all, we'll get started. All right, so just as a quick update, I'm giving the same information in all of the sessions so that everybody has the same information related to our facility strategic planning process. And so many of you are aware that the college and our board of trustees approved the facility strategic plan back in 2020. It has been sort of our guiding principle related to how PCC's existing campus facilities are intended to create the best possible learning environment to enrich our students' academic, personal, and professional lives. That's sort of our grounding, that's our North Star, that's our hope and our intention. We all realize that higher education has changed and shifted since 2020. We had something called, the COVID-19 pandemic. The way in which we actually offer instruction is very different. We have hybrid options, we have online options, and we're continuing to now grow back our in-person options. But it really requires a thoughtful, intentional sort of thinking about how things have changed so that we can make sure that we're planning the best facilities moving forward. Best practice for us and industry standards are that we take a look at these plans every 3 to 5 years, which is really, really important. So thinking about the facility strategic plan, this is really a 10 to 15 year plan because facilities just kind of take that long in terms of us reimagining, building, remediation, those activities. So it is a longer term strategic planning process, but it is important that we regularly check in to just make sure, hey, are there any shifts? Are there any other things that we should be considering related to the way that we work and serve students here on a day-to-day basis? And so this is that moment for us. So if the plan was approved in 2020, it's now 2024. So we're just right at that sweet spot to kind of take a step back and do some re-engagement with the community. I think it's also really important to acknowledge and really admit that it's an imperative that we take into consideration some significant changes since 2020. So we know that we have had some enrollment shifts, and we've done a really wonderful job at trying to recoup some of the enrollment loss that we've had, and yet we still need to take into consideration sort of the differences in our enrollment based on programs and things of that nature. We actually lost the use of 2 of our parking lots since the approved plan in 2020, so lots 10 and 11, which we previously leased from Caltech. We no longer have those lots. They do graciously allow us to use one of them still, but at any point we're expecting our 60-day notice to vacate kind of situation, which can happen at any time. So we actually don't count on those lots for parking today. We're not counting on those lots as it relates to this facilities update process, and so we need to take that into consideration as we're thinking through the update process. We always take into consideration our regular building condition reports, so our Facilities and Construction Services Department, under the leadership of Richard Lorette, who's here today. Often as we're going through buildings and doing remediation projects, we have building condition reports of different buildings on campus, so we try to take those into consideration. And then of course, we're super appreciative that the Pasadena voters passed Measure PCC, which is a $565 million general obligation bond, which allows us to use those funds to better support our facilities needs in the future. So all of those things have happened and changed since 2020, so this is a really key moment for the institution. Thinking about sort of, again, we're going to first ground in sort of things that we need to make sure that you're aware of and know. So our hours of operation, generally speaking, we say we have folks here at 6 a.m. on site to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturdays. We do have a Sunday crew who comes in Sunday evenings to provide some custodial services to prep for Mondays, but generally speaking, we have folks here for Monday through Saturday. Our campus police are aware here of their hours 24/7 by phone, so dispatch is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The front counters, though, are open Monday through Thursday from 8 to 4 and then to 2 o'clock on Fridays. So as you're needing sort of information and you happen to be on campus and you're within those offices, always feel free to stop by. And Lost and Found is available Monday through Friday from 10 to 2. We often are supporting students or faculty in the classroom where students might leave something behind. We just actually had a laptop maybe just left behind in Westerbeck just moments ago, and so often those things go back to campus police and are lost and found. So if you ever have someone, whether it's student, faculty, or staff, who's like, I'm missing something, it's always really great advice to have them check in with campus police because it's very possible that somebody found them and that returned them in there as well. Just as a quick overview, our physical area, so Colorado campus occupies a 53-acre site with 39 buildings on it. Our Foothill campus occupies a 1.2-acre site with 1 building, and then we lease a building on the John Muir campus, which is our PCC Northwest. So that's kind of the scope of the responsibility around campus safety. We're often trying to be mindful of not only the safety activities that are happening on Colorado, but also Foothill and of course Northwest. I should have hit that, I won't hit that button again. And so just think that's sort of what we're dealing with as we build and come to sort of a reopening of Rosemead, then those operations will extend there as well. And then facilities, our primary goal is to provide a safe, healthy, attractive, and functional learning environment. And that area is open, again, 7 days a week. We have custodials, we have grounds, we have mates in skilled trades, and of course a leadership team that kind of helps oversee all of the work activity that's happening on a day-to-day basis. All right, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our incident management team, which is a structure that we have put in place and have been actively working on and improving. And it's really important that the campus community understand the level of work that happens within this community. So incident management, so the IMT team, sort of under the standardized approach to command, control, and coordination of emergency responses. So there's a hierarchy, a very strict hierarchy related to incident planning. I'll give you a really specific example. So today, anytime we're notified of something happening, we're always planning and wanting to best support those activities. So you all received a message around planned protests. They were all peaceful, it's really great, but we still are always anticipating, given that we're consistently monitoring what's happening in higher education in general. And so this IMT team meets, they strategize, they prepare, and they get ready for any incidents, whether we know about them in advance or whether they're happening and we have to sort of deal with them on the fly. They operate under the National Incident Management System, so NIMS, which guides all levels of sort of also government, non-government organizations, and private sector to work together. So an example of that could be, let's say we had a major earthquake on the campus, in Southern California, and we were working then with City of Pasadena officials with their Emergency Operations Center in terms of maybe PCC becomes a Red Cross center and our Robinson Stadium gets converted, and so we operate under that framework in terms of, so it's very structured, there's a lot of training that goes on to this. I operate as the college's incident commander, so whenever things happen, I get that group together. We have some core teams. I'll just give you a quick overview of what that looks like. So from a policy standpoint, sort of and working with our board of trustees, our superintendent president Jose Gomez is who I report to on the incident management structure. And then, so it's myself, I have a public information officer, which is Alex Buckelhide, as backup is David Steinman. We have a safety officer, so safety officer is responsible for doing a quick survey of the location or area related to the incident. We have a liaison officer, which is, Richard Barrett is our safety officer, and David Steinman is our liaison officer. His role is to coordinate and connect with local agencies. So let's say we have a power outage on campus. His responsibility would be connecting and coordinating with Pasadena Water and Power and getting those folks connected with our facilities folks. So we're doing all the reach out activity. Then we have what's called section chiefs. So there are 4 sections. There is operations, planning, logistics, and finance. And I'm just going to really quickly tell you their responsibilities. So operations, section chief is Chief Matchin, and his role in an incident is to really control the area that's having the issue and provide all the boots on the ground activity related to that incident. Planning, which is Dean Veronica Jaramillo, she is responsible for the planning activities, so the future planning. So for example, if we were to have a power outage in one of our buildings, we would call on Veronica to come up with the plans related to what are we going to do with instruction the next day, what are we going to do this afternoon, what is the next operational period. So she would help provide those plans so that then the operations team would be able to execute those plans. Then we have a logistics section chief, which is Darlene Inda, our backup is Tito, and their responsibility is to go get stuff. So when operations says, I need cones, when operations says, I need bathrooms pulled in, like portables, they go out and procure stuff and bring it into the campus location and make sure that the operations section chief or even the planning person, maybe classes have to be hosted outside and they need to go procure lights, things of that nature. They are the team responsible for getting things and setting things up. And then of course we have Jesse Wang, who serves as our finance section chief, who's responsible for sort of FEMA and our abilities to sometimes get reimbursed for activities. And so her role is being responsible for tracking time of people who are working on incidents, you know, sort of time reporting, claims and insurance and those sorts of activities. So it's pretty like structured and regimented. And then there's a host of players who, in this campus community, who participate in a variety of different roles. And I just want to say shout out to all of them. Some of them are actually, Kanya's in the room, James is in the room, let me see, anybody else? Who else? Those two I already mentioned. David, and we do monthly scenarios. And so I think what's important for the campus community to understand and know is that we actually really take the safety of this campus very, very seriously. And we work hard every month to have different sort of planning procedures around activities. So whether that's power outages, chemical spills, active shooter, whatever, I mean, pick a disaster and we've gone through it so that we know how to get, you know, used to planning those endeavors. Oh, TJ's also, I forget he's back there. TJ's also on the team. But one thing that our consultant always tells us is practice. When you have practiced these activities in an emergency, you will fall back on your skill set. And so if we don't regularly practice these things, it's going to be like, we don't know what to do. And so we do that every month. We've got CERT, Community Emergency Training, coming this week for the campus community. There's like 25 staff members who are going through that training on the 8th, 9th, and 10th. We'll be offering some CPR and those sorts of classes in the fall. So always be watchful of things that are happening at PD Day in particular. We have a campus safety sort of first aid type of class that we offer there as well. So be on the lookout. Lots of work is happening in those endeavors, and we want to make sure that you're aware how you can participate also in this forum. All right, so now here's our data piece. Remember I said I'm going to give you some background information and then we're going to transition to data. So I know that sometimes data is a scary thing because you're like, what is it going to tell us? And yet we really embrace really hearing from the community to make sure that we understand where their concerns are. So I just pulled some of the open-ended responses from our student survey. It's funny, oftentimes folks start with like the data points, like the tables. I like to start with the open-ended because you actually kind of can pull out some gems there, and then that will lead us through the data tables. So just generally, so the open-ended response, was there anything about safety that you need to make sure that the college is aware of? And so, or needs, and some of them, you know, one student said cameras, another student talked about bike and foot patrol, foot campus police in the student parking lots. You'll see that there's a theme there that we'll get through, especially late at night and late evenings. More benches and lighting reports around campus, so that speaks to sort of our 100-year facilities that never intended for iPads and cell phones and laptops and things. And so making sure that charging is a priority and focus for our facilities. Lighting and pathways. One student expressed there are too many shadows or dark areas when I walk in the parking lot. So again, a lot of conversation around parking. Escorts, there was a desire for escorts. We're going to talk about that at the end. And then surveillance cameras in the parking lots and structures. So again, there's a lot of sensitivity around those structure areas. And so that just gives us clues that we need to just take some intentional activity around those. But generally speaking, these are the staff faculty data. I'll transition to the student data in a second. Generally speaking though, I think it's really important to acknowledge that most of our faculty and staff actually feel safe on this campus. So 65% either agree or strongly agree that they feel safe on campus. Another 50, 60, some odd percent say they feel safe off campus. It's funny how they feel safer on campus sometimes than off campus. And that their families feel that they're safe on campus. Again, the strongly agree and disagree categories. So that's our our staff. It's interesting because our students feel more safe on this campus. Their percentages are a little bit higher in all of those categories. So close to 77% of our students feel safe on campus, either agree or strongly agree. That neutral category is always something that we want to work on, right? Because think about when you take a survey. If you're like, oh, I don't feel safe, or oh, I don't feel safe. Like if you're right in the middle, it means we've got some work to do there. We want always for somebody to say, I agree. I feel safe, right? And so that just tells us that we have some work to do there, and that's okay. But you notice that they feel more safe on campus than they do off campus. So I think that's important to acknowledge. There is this, people are supportive of other people who have experienced incidents of emotional confrontation, where there's discrimination, sexual harassment, or bullying. So a little bit over 60% feel that way. So these are guideposts. They don't mean that we don't address the issues that also people are expressing, that there are safety concerns on this campus related to lighting or the things that are happening maybe in our parking lots or things. But they do sort of ground us to say, okay, at least we have sort of the structure piece in place, and there may be some tweaks and improvements that we can do. And these are the areas where we can do so. So this is the employees. So the question on this one was, give us sort of like priority. It's kind of like check all of the things that, that you agree with or that you feel. And so there were a couple of things that I wanted to point out that are consistent between our staff faculty as they are with our students. So there is a lot of desire for folks to ability to anonymously report concerns about a student or employee. So that's a piece that they check. That's important to me. Emergency call boxes. So TJ is going to talk a little bit about our direction and plan on that, but those are a concern for our faculty and staff, as well as parking lot lighting. So I just pulled the top three just in terms of percentages. It just gives us an area of focus and an area of priority. And then this is the student equivalent data. Again, the ability to anonymously report concerns about a student, either another student in their classes or an employee. 68%, almost 69%, emergency call boxes that are concerned, and then again, parking lot lighting. So those are things, again, gives us some priority. What I appreciate about the data is that in this regard, it's consistent. So it gives us sort of laser focus in terms of what we can do to start to address some of those concerns. But that's just, we want to make sure that as we're receiving information, so just so you know, for our faculty and staff, there were about 459 responses. Let me look back on that. 439 responses who responded to the survey, so that's a good number of individuals who responded, and then a little bit over 1,400 students. Let's see if I get this out of my way. 1,471 who responded to this piece. So it gives us some, it's a solid data point. I'm going to invite our Chief Technology Officer up here so I can stop talking at you, and then we can get to a discussion point to talk a little bit about the technology opportunities related to safety in facilities.
Thank you, Candace. So I believe I've had the pleasure of meeting most of you, but for those that I have not, my name is Tim Jamal. I'm going to go by TJ. It's usually easier for people to remember. I'm your Chief Technology Officer for the campus. And like with a lot of the points that have already been made, some of the things that are on our radar, conversations we've had closely with facilities and with campus police as well, our blue light system has come up in multiple of the surveys that Candace has referred to. Our systems are currently between 8 to 20 years old in this regard. So we've had several that are very long in the tooth, if you will. We're running out of duct tape and crazy glue to keep them together. So it's definitely one of the big priorities on our roadmap to look at how we're upgrading and getting those up to par. One of the nice things with some of the new innovations that are coming out, we'll be switching them from an old telephone-based connection to a network connection, to where we have the ability to tie it to other systems, such as the surveillance So as people go to those systems, if they are in distress, it'll help give our campus police more visibility to what's going on in that area when that button is pressed. Another area that we've been working with is our rave emergency systems. As many of you may be familiar with already, that system's in place, but it's currently as an opt-in. So you only get access to it if you go to our website and actually register your email and phone number for alerts or updates. With the new upgrade that we're bringing in place with the rave system, it will actually import all of our staff and student information so that everyone's contact number will be in there. So as we're pushing out communications, we can have more surety that we're actually pushing it out to all of our staff and students that are on campus. Another facet of this is they've come up with almost like a pocket blue light system, if you will. It's an emergency app that we're looking at bringing into play, which would be optional for those that want to sign up. But to give you that additional touch point of security, you can have an alert where you can press and it can get you in contact with the campus police from wherever you're at on campus and allow you to have that communication engagement without having to run to one of the blue light systems in itself. So that's another one we thought would be a big plus, especially in light of the survey information that's come out. Our emergency alert systems, all these things go hand in hand with each other. Along with the rave system, we're looking at another communication system that will tie it to our desk phones that we have in office, as well as our media display screens or bulletin boards that we have across campus. They could even tie it to any of the projector screens that are in class. But as alerts or emergencies are sent out, it would have the ability to page and flag the phone system, as well as broadcast over our digital signage or display boards throughout the campus. We also would have the ability at that point to tie it into a public address system, so like the old overhead speakers that we've had in some of the buildings externally, as well as extending some of those into internal locations to where we want additional audio or visual notifications to take place. But it's all a suite that would tie and interconnect together as another safety package for the campus. I know part of my first tour coming into campus a year ago, which is crazy to say, as we were touring through the lower gymnasium area, I've had several other people tell me down there they have 0 cell phone signal. So even when we would push out rave messages or phone call messages to people, they wouldn't get them on their phones until they walked out of the building. If we're in a campus lockdown, that's far too late. So we wanted to do something that would address that wasn't fully dependent on someone's cell phone, but gave them the ability to get those messages and notifications. The other three that I want to touch on is our intercom and keyless entry. I know from conversations with Richard that this has been a conversation for some time that's been taking place, but we have a system that's currently being installed at CDC for the intercom portion, which as you can see is similar or reminiscent to a Ring doorbell system, but this one comes with the additional ability for access control. So as visitors are coming to that location where their doors can remain locked, they can press a notification, have video and audio communication with parents or whoever's on the other side and determine whether they want to buzz them in. The additional keyless entry portion of it will allow staff, faculty, or whoever who has either access tied to their badge card or a credential that can be added to their cell phone to have the ability to come through that door without having to go through the intercom system at all, just through the regular keyless entry. But again, it gives them that added level of security and protection where they don't have to leave the doors open. We have an example of this set up currently for anyone that's interested in checking it out or playing with it in the LL building right in front of the IT room inside of our main hallway. The other area is our video surveillance. Also, again, I feel like the survey spoke to most of these items that I'm bringing up. We want to continue to expand and add additional surveillance throughout the campus, especially in those areas that are kind of blind spots, if you will, and having the ability now to tie it into other systems like the blue light or the communication portals. It adds that extra layer of protection and visibility for campus police when they're going out to support or survey or address an area of concern. Last but not least, our outdoor Wi-Fi, which is one that's tied to our bigger network upgrades that we're doing throughout the campus. This just expands the capabilities of students being able to have access out in our quad areas, throughout our football field areas, front lawn areas. It ties to support for outdoor classrooms. I know at the earlier meeting this afternoon, it was brought up to have like outdoor gardens or outside labs that could be used. This would open up the opportunity to have additional monitors or other tools that can collect and gather information, whether it's for soil temperatures or oxygenation, water flow, things that can be used as for students for research support or other diagnostics. So it's just a few of the ways that we're looking to further expand technology and support throughout the campus. So with that, I will give it back to you.
Don't go too far. All right, we always want to make sure, and then we're going to stop and open up for some questions and some conversation here, but it's always important that we sort of share out like how we're able to assist and how we can assist. And so always on this campus and even the Foothill campus, you can call campus safety 24/7. There's always a dispatcher online. We also rely and work closely with Pasadena PD if there's something that is outside of our immediate capabilities. We have really good relationships with them as well as Pasadena Fire, and so that's their number, 626-585-7484. We always recommend that you put it in your phone. Just go ahead so that in a situation that you're not sort of trying to look through the website and figure out how do I make help on campus. That if you just proactively put that in your phone, that you'll have it available to you for our faculty who are either watching us online. It's always good to encourage your students to do a similar sort of activity so that they know, again, as they're walking from classes to the parking lots in the evening that they have assistance. I'm going to jump over to the right-hand side because that kind of connects to you, but you never have to walk through a dark or empty campus alone, so you can get an escort on campus. All you have to do is call campus safety. So let's say you do find yourself in a building late at night and you just feel, for whatever reason, you don't even have to explain, I just would like an escort. And you can call and they'll actually come provide an escort for you to get to your car location and or sort of the bus stop location, wherever you need to be physically on this campus. I was going to open that a little bit too broadly, but wherever you need to be on this campus or the Foothill campus, we're absolutely willing to give you escort to those locations. So please know that you can do that. There is an anonymous tip line at PCC, which is confidential. It goes directly to campus safety, and they monitor that regularly. We don't advocate for folks to use it as the something's happening right now and use the anonymous tip line. We actually want you to call us. That doesn't mean that they don't monitor that, but it's a little delay. So we would prefer if something is happening in the moment that you call campus safety. But if you've seen something and you have a concern, you can report it through the tip line, which is at pasadena.edu/college and college safety. I think it's like Lancer Anonymous Tip Reporting. That's what the page says. And then you can go there. So if you just did Anonymous Tip Reporting, search in the Google search on the PCC website, it will take you to that page. Of course, you can come discuss any concerns with us in person. We're in B210, which is right across from Krupling Lounge, just above the campus store, from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. each day. I also always want to say, how else can we assist you? So that's sort of the safety aspects, but oftentimes we get questions like, hey, this door isn't working, or this elevator isn't working, or maybe there's something from a facilities related component that people just don't know how to report to us. And so we want you to know, if you go to the facilities and construction website, there is a button there that looks just like that, work orders and repairs, that you just click and you can fill out exactly what's happening in a facility if you need some assistance. So please submit a ticket to us. Richard and his leadership team regularly try to monitor those pieces, especially for things that need to be immediately remediated. They work hard to identify those and get those prioritized. But there's that link there, as well as for our IT services area. So again, if there's a technology issue or something that you needed some assistance with, if you just searched for the ITS website, again, on their homepage, there's also a button there. where you can open a new help desk ticket, and his team is ready to help and assist with any of those activities. Whew, that was a lot, huh? That was a mouthful. Okay, so y'all are trusted peeps in here. So I know I gave you some blue cards. Usually, yes. So Armando has to use the blue card. But everybody else, if you have a question, you can raise your hand. No. But seriously, there's not a lot of us. Usually we try to use the cards if there's just a lot of people and we're trying to kind of manage questions and conversation. But TJ and I certainly want to receive feedback. So if you have additional things that you haven't heard, or you just want to make sure that we're aware of in our planning as it relates to campus safety, as it relates to facilities, please just raise your hand, and we have a mic that can go around the room, and you can kind of share with us your idea and or your comment. Or if you have a question from us on anything that you saw today, we're willing to also accept those questions as well. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So,
I'm gonna just send David up there just so that the online folks are able to hear you as well.
thank you. So my question is regarding campus safety. If you're in need of support from campus safety or campus police, but you happen to be maybe a block or two away from campus, what's the
Protocol?
Yeah.
Of course, you started with the hard question, right? He's like, I'm just gonna just deal with the hard question. So technically, our campus safety folks will do whatever they can to assist. So if they can, they will. The challenge is as we're getting off of our facilities, I mean, they're peace officers, so they can assist whether they're on this campus or off campus or anything. We try to bound within campus, because then if they're off campus and there's something that happens on campus, then we don't have their services here. Does that make sense? So priority is to try to always prioritize the physical location of the Colorado campus or the Foothill campus. But if you needed something and we could call out to our partner agency, Pasadena PD, we would do so on your behalf as well.
So then the second, kind of in addition to that, you know, earlier we mentioned that there would be like an app that would be like an extension of the blue phones that are on campus. So would that app then be kind of, how would that work? Would that also be limited to on campus, or would there be some sort of a geotagging that goes with that?
That's a great question. We haven't gone that far into it. The way it's currently designed, it would work wherever, because it's leveraging the cell phone or whatever mobile devices, technology for communication. At that point, then they would work with you on reporting your location and see what the best way to assist is. But by design, it would work anywhere. You could be at home and press it.
Thank you.
Don't be at home and press it. Yes, sir.
Sometimes low-tech can help fill in information that high-tech isn't ready for. I was going to make a suggestion. PCC Xeroxes thousands of these little maps, 4x6 maps of the campus that are handed out to help people find buildings, classes, everything all the time. If you had a collection box route, you know, a few shoe boxes scattered around the buildings, where people could just put a red dot in an area that was of concern to them, that they noticed, and just drop it in the box, you could collect these and keep a running database.
Okay, good to, thank you for that session. Wait, it's funny when you said drop, you know what I first thought about was like drop a pin. Like just I was thinking of the technical component, so I love the aspect of sort of like this feedback component. But maybe there's also a technology piece that may also help assess and report issues. But thank you for that feedback. Other questions or comments, things that we should be thinking through as we're doing this facilities refresh process? I know. I mean, did we answer a good portion of questions? I'm hopeful. Oh, God, Mondo, here we go.
No, it's super, and it's somewhat timely. So, you know, we've always appreciated our students, you know, voicing their concerns, some will call it protesting, whatever it might be. And I think there's a good number of folks that are aware of the students' rights. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of it. I know student services, we meet regularly to discuss it, to get ahead of it, if you will. And for a while, Chief Manchin was kind of taking a roadshow, just highlighting, you know, how, you know, the value of de-escalating, the value of not jumping to conclusion, all that great language. I think that's been super helpful. It's not a knock on him, but I don't know if he's doing it as much. And I wouldn't expect one person to be responsible if it works. Because at least it allows and informs people to know that this is how we support our faculty and staff to ensure that folks are safe.
I love that reminder. So, yes and yes. We want to appreciate the feedback. I know that Chief really spent a lot of intentional time of like going to the library and going through various areas to kind of give this feedback. I think where we've been challenged more recently is just based on our staffing numbers, and so we're working really proactively to get back to some of those pre-pandemic staffing numbers so that we're better supporting. But even still, the training component around student rights, I think is something that we will certainly take into consideration and figure out how then we can serve that so it's not a one-man show. One man or person show, thank you. One person show that we're sharing that responsibility across the department. So it's good feedback.
Some years back, I'm located, the past office is located in the D building, and we're in the bottom, so we get a lot of folks visiting our space from off campus. And so we had a couple of incidences where it prompted the whole area to be prepped and have some training. All that to say is the training was very helpful.
Okay.
Chief Manchin came in, walked us through what would you do in case of, you know, and I feel I'm there most of the time, so I feel real comfortable with that. And then we brought in some tools like a bell for our door, and then some mirrors around the space. So we're kind of looking around Armando Lascas, every time he comes in, I'm looking in the mirror, see who's walking into our space. I'm saying that because, you know, we keep cycling through folks in the different departments. I was going to talk about the trio area, but it might be a good idea to come back to the trainings.
Yeah.
It was so helpful, Candace. And he was like, in case of a shooter, stand there, lights here, do this, close that. And unfortunately, we've had circumstances we've had to put these plays in action.
Yeah.
And it's like, you in there, no rush, we go. You know, it's like, and you feel safe and comfortable. So just as a reminder, as we move forward, that was so helpful. Steve was amazing, and I hope we get to do that again because we keep getting new folks.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not, I train my team, but
Yeah.
I think when you hear it from, you know, the professionals on campus, they're better heard, better accepted, or you know, engraved in their brain. It's not just Maggie sharing
Yeah.
this stuff. So just as a reminder.
Thanks. That's great feedback, Maggie. We have a question up front. And then
Sure, I'm not even sure how to phrase this question, because I thought this was a different form, but since I'm here. Where are we at in terms of, I know at one point we had some kind of a position that we were posting, this was years ago, about, it wasn't environmental health and safety, it was something like that. And so I'm wondering where we're at in terms of hygiene plans and hazardous materials management, like what is, because I know we used to have like a guy, and I don't know if it's expanded beyond that, or like where are we at both in terms of not just how do we deal with it beforehand, but like preemptively, like I said, hygiene planning and inventory management, and all of the kind of logistics that go into, you know, basically, I guess, we're not calling it cradle to grave anymore, we're like call it cradle to cradle.
yes, thank you for the question. We actually have our executive director of facilities here who can speak a little bit about a role that we have internal to facilities and just sort of that at a high level. I'm gonna punt to Richard Lorette over there.
Yeah, good afternoon. In regards to the management, we look to each division that has their own chemicals. Usually there's a tech that's involved in that does the manifesting. Then that comes to our department at one point. We did hire a full-time employee for environmental health and safety. And so Annalisa Robles is her name. And so she's been working with us and working with some of the divisions. We contract with Clean Harbors for disposal. And so we get it on the back end. We still look to each department. And I know she's starting to interface. She's been with us probably TJ's been here almost a year herself. So she's starting to reach out to the departments and look at things a little more comprehensively.
She was also working on like training programs internal to our department in terms of the safety aspects there too. So it's really great that Richard and team have hired this dedicated professional to kind of give us some assistance there. But with any new person, they come in and need to sort of figure out what's needed. But that's been a really good.
But she exists and she was fired.
She exists, Elisa, and she was hired.
I've seen her.
She exists. I think Tito had a question.
Yes, thank you. I actually had a couple times now that we're focusing on safety. I had a couple of my staff bring this up to me and had conversations with Chief, but still I think a broader discussion is really needed at this point, is that we have a lot of unhoused folks who are making PCC their home. And while that's supported in certain respects, sometimes there's acts that are not okay. With regards to literally urinating in public in front of my staff's windows, shooting up or even sniffing cocaine right in our areas. And when we do bring it up, like, well, are they still there? And we're like, they are, or they're just left, like, okay, then it's them. We're like, but no, they literally just, indecent exposure right in front of my female staff. And for me, the frustration as a manager over there is, other than, apologizing for the fact that it happened and have no control of it, more apologizing for the inaction of our college in some of these situations. So when you talk about campus safety, when you talk about more of the folks feeling safe, while that's not a direct thing, because literally there's a bucket in there, you're really still concerned that there's no full action being taken, or what does it, I think, and I quote from my staff, like, what is it going to take for action to actually happen? Is it somebody physically harming to get to that point, or is there some preventative stuff that we can do?
So I'm going to answer that and then receive the feedback. So I'll answer that to say this forum was related to campus safety, related to facilities,
Yes.
but I won't shy away from the question. So I think in all of our activity, one of the first and foremost options that we're trying to work for is the humanity of people, and some empathy and compassion related to our housing insecure individuals. So if you think of PCC, it's an open park. It's like, this is just like McDonald Park, Victory Park. Folks come in and out of this space because it's community. And so I think where we try to have some empathy and trying to figure out what service pieces, we're really trying to lead with that. That doesn't mean that we can't receive feedback about how we could be more proactive about sort of addressing something more quickly. And so I received that, and let me think through that with Chief about how that could be possible. I thought you had a second question, but that's good. We'll limit you. Any other thoughts or things that we should consider? All right, team, I'm going to release you with 8 minutes to go. TJ and I are going to stay around and just see if you have any questions. I'd like to really thank and appreciate you all. I know that it's not easy to take time out of your days to sort of disconnect and come over, but clearly campus safety, particularly as it relates to our facilities, is a strategic priority for you guys. You care, and so you showed up. And so for those of us who are online, I also want to thank you all for giving us this hour to kind of share out what's happening. And if you have feedback, you can always contact me directly. I'm willing to take that and see where we can go with it. I do want to recognize that we also have a facilities forum, which is, again, more of the generic forum. Maybe that's the forum you were looking for? Okay, so we have another one tomorrow at noon, and it's actually going to be in Westerbeck, and so join us then. We'll do some framing around some of the scope of the original work, and then some discussion, sort of input phase at the end of that as well. So again, thank you, we appreciate you, and have a good day.
Thank you.